detailed warning. And he's also turned it into extreme ownership, which I am all about. If you say something like that, own it. Dive in. Be that guy. Even if that guy is a meathead cannibal who says, all right, every 4 seconds.
All right, all right, all right, all right, all right.
All right, all right.
All right.
You think I'm a meathead? Good, all right.
All right.
Why don't we go to the Urban Dictionary for the most legitimate definition of meathead? The UD defines meathead as, quote, an enormously muscular guy who cannot hold a conversation about anything other than weightlifting and protein shakes. He gets upset very quickly when he cannot complete his own sentences and thoughts. You'll find him at a nightclub wearing shirts that are 10 sizes too small. End of definition. So Dan Campbell's got zero problem with anybody thinking he's exactly that. Let's check it out. Enormously muscular guy. Check. My man goes 6'5", 265. He's made out of granite. Can't hold a conversation about anything other than protein. Check. According to nutrition facts, kneecaps are in fact 100% lean protein. Clean, burning fuel. Quote, gets frustrated when he can't finish his thoughts. Well, I mean, he does say all right where the punctuation is supposed to go.
All right.
Check.
All right. All right. All right. All right.
Quote, you'll find him at a nightclub wearing shirts 10 sizes too small. Check. Mate. Go peep this dude in Miami, roaming the sidelines as the Dolphins' interim head coach back in 2015. Those polo shirts never stood a chance. Anyway, my man, DD, Danny Dahmer. I'm all about you embracing the meathead gloss and running with it. Man, it's actually a good look. And it's about time somebody stood by what they said. The last dude in Detroit was not a meathead. Just a guy who seemed to really enjoy meat and all other foods. And instead of owning things with reporters, he was just scolding them for their posture.
Well, you know, do me a favor, just kind of sit up and just like have a little respect for the process. Every day you come in and ask me questions and you just kind of like, you know, give me this. But I mean, like just be a little respectful. I'm asking just to be a little respectful in this whole process, okay? So ask me a question professionally and I'll answer it for you.
I mean, Detroit, after you hear that, after we run that back, man, how much better does this sound right about now?
We're going to kick you in the teeth, all right? And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down, all right? And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing. All right, that's going to be the mentality. All right?
All right. All right. I'm telling you, I would take that guy over Fat Matt Pat. Fat? Any day.
All right.
In fact, I'm starting to really like this guy. I'm starting to really like this guy.
All right.
Coach him up, Dahmer.
All right.
All right. I like it.
All right.
I love
all right,
that he didn't walk that back. I love that he leaned into it. Leaned into it, man. He dove into it. Yeah, good. You think I'm a meathead? Right, I am. You think I'm a dumb lunk? Right, I'm that too. Dan Woike. Dan, what's going on, man? How are you?
Jim, I'm good. Happy New Year belated, I guess, right? And hope you're well.
Same with you, Dan. Good to have you back. All right, so if you're a Laker fan, how concerned would you be after watching them blow a 17-point lead last night and losing to Washington in OT?
I don't know that I'd be concerned as much as I'd be confused, I think would be kind of the place that I would be, because on one hand, you look over and you see Anthony Davis in street clothes. You know Dennis Schroeder is at home in a quarantine after being exposed to COVID and isn't on the team. So you're missing 40% of your starting lineup, right? Like your second and third best starters are not there. And you know that that's a lot of firepower that you don't have. So that part of it, I think, would kind of lower the expectation bar. But then you're right. I mean, you see a team that is good enough to go up 17, is good enough to seemingly like slam the brakes on this losing streak, and then watching it all sort of fall apart as they just looked. I mean, to me, Jim, they look tired, and it makes sense when you consider the sort of the year they've had, the off season they didn't have, the year that a lot of them had last year, playing deep, obviously the deepest team, last team left standing in the bubble. You start to wonder if like a little of this is just sort of cumulative fatigue, if this is sort of the grind of the season. And, when you're a little shorthanded, it's harder to grind it out.
Dan Wookie's joining us. So, Dan, that brings us, of course, to LeBron, who made it very, very clear after the game. He does not feel like he's being played too many minutes, even though he was over 40 minutes again. That's the fourth time this season. I mean, like, Dan, he's in amazing shape. Nobody would ever dispute that. But he's coming off the shortest offseason of his career. He's currently playing without AD and Dennis Schroeder. Doesn't it stand that there's got to be a breaking point somewhere, even for an outlier like LeBron?
Right. I mean, he's managed to fight this off longer than any player that I can think of, and he may continue to fight it off. But you're right. I mean, like, not only has it been 4 games, Jim, this year that he's played over 40 minutes, last year in the regular season, he only did it twice. So things are not trending wildly positively on that front. And guess what? When they play Utah on Wednesday night, if that game's close, if that game pushes somehow into overtime again, you can expect LeBron to be on the court for that too. It's just sort of his competitiveness, the work that he does put in to be in that place physically. But look, when you watch him night in, night out, you do see the signs. You see, I think physically, obviously, his legs are a really easy thing you can tie to kind of the shooting over the last 10 games, under 30%, closer to 20% really from deep. He was 2 for 10 last night. He misses a potential game-winning free throw short. But I also see like the mental stuff, the turnovers. He fouled Russell Westbrook last night in overtime, Jim. Westbrook beat the Lakers to the basket. It was a situation where they needed to foul really quickly. They were down, I believe at the time they were down 1. And at that point, like, LeBron's probably a top 2 or 3 smart player in the NBA. At that point, the smart thing to do is just let Westbrook score. Fouling him lightly, and the worst thing that can happen is a 3-point play. And LeBron fouled him lightly. Westbrook made the layup. Thankfully for the Lakers, he missed the free throw, so they still had a chance to tie. But it was just like an uncharacteristically, like, pretty not smart basketball play. And to me, that's a sign of mental fatigue too. And I think, the usage and stuff is up. But the Lakers, Jim, are in this really unique situation right now. I was just kind of running through some data over these last 3 games during this losing streak, and it's like, the only lineups they're really having success with are the ones where LeBron James is on the court. And it's not even close. When he leaves the floor, like, they have been awful in this stretch. And so if you're the Lakers, kind of, how do you balance that big picture with sort of the need to still win games along the way? It's a really interesting position there.
It really is. Dan Woike is joining us. You had a really interesting piece earlier this month on his ability to play at the level that he is after all this time.
Yeah.
When you were talking to head coaches around the league, what did they tell you about the level that he's still playing at right now?
I mean, he's an MVP candidate, right? And he, may even be still the best player in the league. I think coaches see when LeBron goes to that, like, A-game, like, place, it's a level that very few other guys can get to, both physically and mentally and even, like, competitively, right? It's sort of this weird kind of combination of everything at the same time. I feel very good about the fact that I wrote that story, hit send, and then I think he's maybe made like 3 3-pointers since then. I feel a little bit better. But it was, the shooting early in the season was a really impressive sort of added wrinkle to his game. The smarts are at such just another level. And physically, like, this is a guy that doesn't really ultimately slow down that much. I know we're talking about kind of the cumulative minutes, but he's a guy that's still out there every game. It's wild to think that this is still the best version of LeBron James. But look, if you talk to people that were in the bubble, and I was there, and you talk to other coaches and stuff, he was the best player in the bubble. And that's wild. And I think it's certainly conceivable that when the games matter most again this year, he might be the best player again. And that's just an incredible testament to his longevity and his ability to continuously deliver when the expectations are so high.
We were talking to Dan Wojcicki for a few more moments. Dan, you mentioned the Utah Jazz. So the Lakers are a different team this year than they were last year, but what do you make of what you've seen from Utah so far this season?
I mean, it's one of my favorite 8-man rotations in the NBA. I think they just all make such sense together, Jim. It's like, you especially in the league right now, as you look around and you see teams that have so many, like, just stars, like, flat out, like, all capital letter superstars. And the Jazz have some great all-NBA type players, don't get me wrong. But it does feel like it's a much more kind of cumulative thing, that it's a group that just fits together and everybody sort of elevates one another. Anybody who's around the NBA loves Mike Conley. So I think watching Mike Conley play well is something that everybody's happy about. I really hope that tonight he hears his name as an all-star reserve. I think he certainly deserves it. The Jazz probably deserve 3 guys. They've been just a fantastic team to this point. I think some people still have questions about, can they get over the hump in a playoff series when they don't have the best player, which is sort of that, easy way to sort of pick a playoff series, because they're going to play a lot of playoff series where they don't have the single best player. But they might always have the best team and the best kind of group of guys. So it'll be really interesting to see how that sort of matches up with some of the individual star power that's out in the Western Conference.
Hey, Dan, where do you come out on Quinn Snyder? How good of a coach is he in your mind?
Top tier.
Right. Me too.
I think he's in. Yeah, I think he's in that elite class of NBA coaches. It's funny. I remember once sitting in Jim in your green room in the old TV studios talking to, I think it was Darren Collison at the time. We were talking about how there's really only a handful of NBA coaches who make like a huge difference. And, Quinn Snyder is certainly in that class. I think just consistently his teams are so well organized. And they're a team that's also benefiting from a lot of continuity and a clear understanding of what they want to do. And that's a credit to their front office, and it's a credit to their coaching staff.
All right, so before I let you go, what about the Clippers? How does this year's Clippers team compare to the Clippers team that imploded last year?
I mean, I think obviously they've added some shooting, which is important. I really think that the Serge Ibaka for Montrezl Harrell flip for them was a really important one, that they got a player championship tested. Certainly has played in tons of big games. Certainly more defensive-minded than Montrezl Harrell, which is something the Lakers are kind of dealing with right now a little bit. That made a lot of sense to me. I still think that they've got backcourt questions. Obviously some health questions always that'll persist. But they seem to be a team that's like more equipped for the playoffs. But I am very firmly in I'll believe it when I see it territory with the Clippers. Jim, I feel like I've seen too much over the years. I've seen that rug pulled out from underneath them so many times that it's the burden of proof is now on them. But I think they put themselves in the position in a year where, I mean, look, that game against Utah was terrific. They played great. The Brooklyn game was really, really fun. A call maybe away from that game being a little differently, and they're in a good spot.
Hey, Dan, before you go, let me ask you, is a working journo, as you mentioned, you were in the bubble and we're still amidst the pandemic, and the way you do your job is very different now than the way you used to do your job. And Doc Rivers, what an unbelievable moment that was on that Zoom call a few days back when he hit Jackson Frank with that JC blast for asking a question from his bed. What was your reaction to that?
I mean, it's terrifying. I mean, as like a reporter, I'm very locked into like trying to be in a very specific place in my home where it looks like sort of professional. But every once in a while, I'll be on the couch or something like that, and maybe in some sweats or something, and you get a little nervous that you're going to get caught in an embarrassing, not like a compromising tubing situation, but like something where you're just going to look stupid. And it's happened for sure. I think for me, like the best sort of moment was Frank Vogel was talking about how they were going to have to like talk faster during timeouts and meetings because the NBA had like limited as part of the COVID protocols, limited the time they would have together. And I kind of cracked that they should maybe hire the guy from the Micro Machines commercials, which is a reference that I thought was just spot on. Nobody knew what I was talking about. It was total crickets on the Zoom. And like, you're not even in a position where you can save yourself. You just have to sit in it. and just sit in your horrible joke and just live in it while everybody just kind of stares at you. You're not sure if the screen's frozen